Good morning, sixth grade. Hopefully you guys had a great Monday. It was really nice to see you guys today as through our Zoom. I know you guys were a little tired, so hopefully you guys have woken up and you guys are ready to learn for today. So yesterday we talked about the two different lifestyles. We talked about the sedentary lifestyle and the nomadic lifestyle. We talked about how if you're a nomad, you're typically traveling all the time. With camels, you're like the traders. You're the ones moving around, following your herds. And we also talked about the sedentary lifestyles, which were the people that kind of like lived in towns and they were more settled, kind of like how we are. We live in a house. We don't really roam around that much. We also talked about how the trade centers were really important to everyone, and while the trade centers not only were they able to trade goods from all over the world, from like Africa, Asia, and Europe, but they're also able to trade their ideas, cultures, and beliefs, which started to develop, and all this stuff was good. All these good things were happening. So the trade was really important and really valuable to these people because of the desert and of the crossroads location. All right. Today, what we're going to talk about is we're going to start to jump into the origins of their lifestyle, and we're going to talk about Islam, the new religion that came about, and we're going to talk about the guy who founded it, and his name was Muhammad. So today, we're going to have a little story about Muhammad and talk about a little bit how the religion of Islam came about. So let's go ahead and jump into it. So the origins of Islam. Today we're going to talk about how Muhammad became a prophet and introduced this religion called Islam into Arabia. So building background. The idea that people should help the poor is one important teaching of the religion of Islam. Kind of like how we know helping the poor is something that we should do. It was the basis of Islam. When Islam was introduced to the people of Arabia, many of these teachings seemed new and different. And this started a new little way of thinking and a new culture in Arabia. Alright, so Muhammad becomes a prophet. So there was this man, his name was Muhammad. And Muhammad, if you guys believe it or not, it's the most common name in the whole world, Muhammad. And Muhammad, what he did was he brought a different religion into the people of Arabia. Historians don't know much about Muhammad, but they do know everything about him through religious writings. Okay, through all the historic texts and everything like that, they found out his writings. As you see in those pictures, those are camels, and you can see how much weight they can carry, and people just normally walk by them. So, just a little bit about Muhammad. So, Muhammad, he was born into this really important, wealthy family in the city called Mecca in around 570. Okay, Muhammad's early life, it wasn't easy. His father was a merchant, but his father died before he was born, and his mother later died when he was 6. So Muhammad was pretty much on his own since he was the age of 6. With Muhammad's parents gone, Muhammad was raised by his grandfather and by his uncle. When he was a child, he traveled a lot with his uncle's caravan. So if you remember, a caravan was a group of traders that went around and traded things. So he was pretty much a nomad and traveled around with these caravans, and they visited places such as Syria and Jerusalem, and he was going all over the place. When he got older, he actually managed a caravan business himself, and he became really wealthy, and he married this girl named Khadija. Okay, and pretty much he got really wealthy from from him trading and all this stuff, and he was able to have this own business of trading. Okay, so the caravan trade was what that Muhammad was about. It made the city of Mecca really rich. And because most of the wealth belonged to a few people, the poor people had really bad and horrible lives. Traditionally, back then, the wealthy people in Mecca would help out the poor. But as Muhammad was growing up, all these ideas started to change, and many of the rich merchants did not help the poor, and they started to ignore them and just said, you know what, I'm wealthy and you're poor. Sorry, you worry about yourselves. So things started to change, and Muhammad didn't like these changes. He didn't like that the wealthy weren't helping the poor anymore. So as Muhammad was the man of the person that he was really concerned about these changing traditions and customs in Islam. Like I said before, typically the wealthy would help out the poor, but when Muhammad was growing up, they stopped, and the wealthy was just getting wealthy and forgetting about the poor. So Muhammad, he wanted to know what was changing. He wanted to know why. So Muhammad, what he did was he would often go outside of the city, and he would go to the hills, and he would just pray and meditate and just ask God, like, why is people changing? Why aren't the wealthy helping out anybody? So one day when Muhammad went to go meditate, he went to go meditate in a cave. And according to the Islam teaching, something happened that changed his life forever. An angel appeared to Muhammad and it told him to recite. And Muhammad was really confused at first, and he was like, well, what should I recite? What should I say? And the angel told Muhammad, recite in the name of the Lord who created man from clots of blood. Recite, your Lord is the most bountiful one, who by the pen taught man to know what he did. Okay, so Muhammad, he was spoken to by this angel, and because of this angel spoken to Muhammad, he was able to create this whole new religion. It's almost like when Moses got told about the 10 Commandments. Muhammad came to an angel, or an angel came to him in a cave and began to show him these new messages, and from this, Muhammad decided, I gotta go and tell the people and create this new religion. So back then, or now, Muslims believe that God had spoken to Muhammad through this angel and made him a prophet. So a person who tells messages from God is considered a prophet, and Muhammad was considered the first prophet. At first, Muhammad was afraid and didn't tell anybody except for his wife about the voices that he heard in a cave. A few years later, in year 613, Muhammad began telling other people about his messages. He was saying, like, I can't hold this any longer, I gotta tell everybody. So the messages Muhammad received pretty much became the basis of this religion called Islam. And the word Islam, what it means is submit to God. Okay? And a follower who follows Islam is considered a Muslim. So Muslims believe that Muhammad continued receiving messages from God and continued to receive them for the rest of his life. And pretty much what he did was all these messages and all these stories that were collected and placed in this book called the Quran. And the Quran is what you see on the right, and that's pretty much the Islam's Bible. Okay? So all these teachings that Muhammad got pretty much became the basis of Islam. So as a quick review, we started to talk about how Muhammad became a prophet. And Muhammad, he grew up and had a bad life. Both his parents died, was raised by his grandparents and his uncle, and he followed and worked in the caravan trade business. He was always on the move as a nomad, and eventually when he got older, he started to get really wealthy. And he also started to wonder back then, why were the wealthy people not helping out the poor anymore? Before, it was always the wealthy who were giving to the needy, and he didn't. So this is when he went and decided he was going to go out and meditate in the cave and really find out what's going on. When he went to the cave, this is when the angel appeared to him and started giving him messages, and all these messages that he received, he turned into a religion called Islam, which means submit to God. And all of his messages and all his stories were recorded in this book or the Bible called the Quran. For homework, I would like you guys to answer these questions. Number 1, how did Muhammad bring Islam to Arabia? What did he do? How did he spread this new teachings? Number 2, what was the source of Islamic teachings and how did Muhammad receive them? So who gave Muhammad these teachings and how did Muhammad get them, or how was he able to hear them? And number 3, how did Muhammad become so wealthy as he was growing up? What was he doing? So that concludes our lesson today. It's nice and short. If you guys have any questions, you can always message me and I can help you out that way. If not, looking forward to seeing you guys all tomorrow in our next Zoom, Wednesday morning. So hopefully I can see you guys there, because as the year's coming to an end, I want to still be able to have that connection with you guys. If you have no questions, have fun doing your homework and have a good day. And I'll see you guys all tomorrow.